Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, this is MacGuffinSC, and tonight I'm bringing you Game 2 of my Community Cast series. This is a series where I cast games from the leagues from Bronze to Grandmaster. My first game was a Master game, and today I believe this is a Bronze game. So let's introduce the players. In the blue, we have the Terran, Johandagreat, in the top position on Xel'Naga Caverns, so it is a TVZ. And we have Jimminz, or Jimminz. So maybe he's from New Zealand, like I am. Even though, well, I'm from Australia, but I live in New Zealand. So as I was saying, guys, these are my community cast games. And these are just, your games. If you want to send it in, I'll be happy to watch it, and maybe I'll cast it. I can't promise that every game you send me will get up, but I'll try and do as many as I can. And yeah, it should be fun. And I mean, I've been talking to a few people about this, and they've been a bit reluctant to send in the replays. They're saying, well, I'm not very good, or I'm in silver, or I'm in platinum, or something. And the thing is, guys, the lower leagues, they don't have the best APM, or maybe the best strats, but they're fun to watch sometimes. Because you see strats that you don't see in Grandmaster or Masters, like Mothership Immortal, Rush or something, I don't know. Just if you think it's a fun game, send it in, and I promise to at least watch the replay. So we have Johandagreat sending in his Scouting SCV, and looks like he's spammed around quite a bit. Get the whole circle. We have a 13 pull for the Zerg, but no gas. Of course, this isn't bronze, so we might be seeing some strange builds, because usually when you get a pull first, or pull before expansion, you go gas pull. You usually see gasless pull builds against Protoss when you're expanding quickly, so that you can get roaches later on. But we'll have to see what this Zerg does. Johan now completing his wall. I haven't seen much from the Zerg yet. It looks like he's going to go... It's either a roach build or an expansion build. So yes, should be interesting to see what the Zerg's going. Looks like he's got supply blocked, unfortunately. Of course, when you're in the lower levels, that's one of the most important things to work on. Don't get supply blocked. The scouting drone continuing to try and chase this SCV. The wall-in is now complete, and SCV coming back into base. Orbital command coming up for Johan, and he's getting 2 gas, so we might be seeing a tech build. And we do have the expansion down for the Zerg. So I guess he just wanted to do a safe expansion, maybe. But he didn't get any lings out, so it's kind of interesting. Just since I'm a Zerg player myself, just to explain this to Zerg, sometimes you get the pull out and then go expansion without any gas. But if you're doing that, you'd probably want to get some lings out first, because the reason you go pull first is because you want lings out. So maybe get 2 sets of lings and then expand. Otherwise, it's probably better to go hatch first, unless you're not confident with that build. Unfortunately, the wall is now closed for Jimminz, I'll be calling him, for the rest of the game. So the drone has to retreat. Of course, the Overlord is sneaking in the back. Maybe he's looking for a lot of Rax builds. We do have the second barracks coming up for Johandagreat. We have a nice overload spread in the Zerg space. Of course, if you're spreading out your overlords like this, you can actually usually set them up about here, here, and here, and then you get the same sort of coverage from anything coming in here, except you'll see the dropships coming in a bit faster, so it's just a little bit better in my opinion. Of course, everyone has their own preference. So we have the Zerg second queen coming out. And we do have some marines chasing down that scouting drone. We have some lings going into attack. Of course, these are non-speedlings because he hasn't got his gas yet. And he's got 2 queens, but he hasn't injected, so that's another thing for you Zerg players out there. If you're trying to get into the higher leagues, remember you've got to hit those injects, because it really helps your macro. This is 12 lings versus 4 marines, and it looks like the lings got the surround, and unfortunately the marines go down. We do have +1 coming out for Johandagreat. He's on 2 racks, no tech labs yet. No tech lab or reactors yet. He is getting a bunker, so he saw a lot of Zerglings, and maybe he wants to... Maybe he thinks a Baneling Buster's coming. He's throwing down a second bunker. So we have that second queen is now up to 54 energy, and it's finally starting to move down to... Well, it's just throwing a creep tumor down actually. So he's getting a 3rd queen at his expansion. Okay. It always is interesting to see what these lower level league players do. So if I had some tips for the Zerg player, just use your injects more. You really need to keep that queen energy down. This queen's up to 82 energy. You could have a lot more creep tumors going by now. So it could put him a bit ahead if he used that energy. The Zerg is up by about 7 supply at the moment. Factory almost complete for the Terran player. We have some more drones transferring down the natural. And so we have these 2 extra queens. He may have got them for defense. The Zerg looks like he's being very careful. He's got his Overlord spread out and he's got 3 queens, except he's not really utilizing that queen energy as efficiently as possible. Of course, he is floating 900 minerals. And that's another thing that you've got to work on if you want to try and get that promotion, is to try and keep your minerals down, guys. We do have 31 drones to 28 SCVs, 2 bunkers set up for Johandagreat, and he is now getting his tech labs and reactor. We have a starport and an armory going down for the Terran player. And no layer yet for the Zerg. It is at the 8-minute mark now. We have 3 queens, and unfortunately he's not utilizing this creep tumor as well as he could be. The Zerglings are still patrolling at the natural though he hasn't gotten speed yet. He's up to 200 gas, and he hasn't got that metabolic boost, which makes those Zerglings so much more effective, guys. The only builds you really want to skip speed for a Zerg player, you almost want it every single build except maybe a Roach build, or like a really heavy Roach build, like a Roach build versus a Protoss Fast expansion. Looks like he is now beginning to spread out those creep tumors. He's created 2 additional creep tumors. And actually that's something I might mention. A lot of low-level Zerg players sometimes don't know that a creep tumor itself can actually produce another creep tumor. It seems very simple and something you might take for granted of knowing, but some people just don't know it. So each creep tumor can spawn an additional creep tumor. So one creep tumor given enough time can take over the entire map. That is of course why they're called tumors. Have their siege tank out now for Johandagreat. Siege tank is about 50 seconds off. Stem almost complete. And the layer is now going up for the Zerg. And he still doesn't have that metabolic boost 10 minutes in the game. So it looks like Johandagreat is now beginning to move out. Stem is almost complete, and he got an early +1. And looks like he's going to get these Zerglings with no speed. It's actually a nice stutter step for a bronze player. His APM dropped up for about 170 there. The thing about APM actually is, that people should remember, is people usually look at the averages of APM, so it's quite low for these players, but of course it is bronze. But there is average APM and then there's current APM. And I usually like to refer to current APM as battle APM. So if you have 50 APM for the duration of the game, and it doesn't seem like very good, but if you can actually manage like 300 APM in a battle, then you know you're utilizing the APM like you should be. So we have the Zerg player unfortunately spawned 3 creep tumors there, and it looks like he's going to get this around. Unfortunately, he didn't siege up this tank quick enough, and it looks like the Zerglings are going to get in. The siege tank is almost useless when it's in close range, and it looks like the Zerg is going to clean up. Again, nice stutter step micro, up to 200 APM actually. So that was nice micro by the Terran player, except he probably wanted to siege up around here and leapfrog his way into the base. We have a macro hatch going up for the Zerg player. Of course, he wouldn't actually need the macro hatch if he had been injecting since the beginning of the game. The spire is about halfway complete. No missile turrets up for the Terran player, and he's almost out of minerals in his main, but he has got his expansion running, as well as upgrades for his tanks. And it looks like he's going to move out of his base and secure his natural now. Queen relaying these tumors, except there's 2 tumors here he could be using, and this one as well. I know he can spawn creep tumors, but I saw him spawn these 2, but he isn't utilizing all of them. We still have no metabolic boost for the Zerg player. Injecting on his hatcheries. Except he's got 2 queens here that have almost up to max energy, so if he was injecting into these, he'd have so much more supply, and maybe he could spend, and that's why his minerals are getting that high. Zerg players, you really need to work on your injects. And I mean, even I need to work on my injects sometimes. I usually look at my replays, and in a very intensive battle, I sometimes forget to inject, and I realise that sometimes it can cost you the game. Those bunkers have been salvaged now, and siege tanks have been positioned in the natural. Relatively even supplies actually. We do have about 4 supply difference. The Terran player is up 2 SCVs at 42. Zerg is oversaturated at his gas. Gotta remember that, guys. You only need 3 per extractor, so he's got 4. So that's just where he could have 1 extra worker there. And he's not really using his gas either. He's gotten 4 gas, but he hasn't really used it for anything. Although he does have a lot of mutalisks, so you could actually pop out about 15 mutalisks with this much gas. This Zerg player could have a lot more mutalisks if he just utilized that lava inject. We have a 1 solo Reaper here, making sure that no one gets past. Terran player is starting to slip away in supply. He's now down about 10 supply. And the Zerg is starting to build up that ever deadly mutalisk count. And here we have a lot of mutalisks spawning out for the Zerg player. It looks like he finally got some lava available. Now he's spent all his lava and he's injected properly. So we now have quite a big ball of 23 mutalisks. And the Zerg player has finally started that metabolic boost upgrade at the 15, almost 60 minute mark. But he is up 20 supply, and he could do a lot of damage with this mutalisk harassment. So we're going to have to see how the Terran player deals with this. So the Zerg player going in straight for the starport. And I gotta say that this isn't the best decision by the Zerg player. When you're inside a base, you want to go for vulnerable targets like supply depots, add-ons, or SCVs. So we have some more nice stutter step micro by this Terran. Stim is now down. Mutalisks are seeing if they can come in, but it's just not going to be a good trade for the Zerg player. And I know he's going to lose his entire flock of mutalisks to these marines if he doesn't be careful. So a bit of a misstep by the Zerg player at that point. Of course, he could have done a lot more damage if he went for these supply depots, or especially these SCVs. Now the Terran player knows about the mutalisks, and he is putting up turrets now. And unfortunately, another stim ball of marines under the mutalisks. You got to be so careful with those mutalisks. They're so deadly, but they're so fragile. And it looks like he's trying to micro behind and go to the SCV line. But it looks like he's going to get away. And unfortunately, the Terran player has put up these missile turrets, so he's not going to be able to do much damage. Or he tries to take out this. Oh, nice! He takes out that medevac, except he's going to lose all the mutalisks. So not a good trade for the Zerg player. We have a lot of Zerglings up here. And I got to think that if the Zerg player threw down a Baneling nest and just used all his gas and all his minerals to make this all into Banelings with his centrifugal hooks, he could actually probably just roll right through. Of course, he may be afraid of these siege tanks, so maybe that's why he's reluctant to do it. He is now throwing down 2 Evo chambers. Another tip for beginner Zerg players, if you get 1 carapace armor on your Zerglings, they will survive an additional hit from the siege tank. They'll also survive an additional hit from Banelings, so it makes them very effective. We have a small group of marines now coming out. Looks like they might be clearing the watchtower. Looks like 2 are going to hold the watchtower, while these 5 are going to go see if the Zerg has expanded to the gold. And they have seen that they have not. The Zerg player is still about 16 supply up. Terran player is now mined out at his main, and so is almost the Zerg player, so it's almost 1 base to 1 base. Except the Zerg is a lot higher in supply, and of course he's got this big deadly ball of mutalisks with +1 flower attack. But he is floating a lot more minerals, so he needs to use better injects and get a few more macro hatches down or expand. So we have the Terran player taking out the rocks now, maybe looking to open up that counterattack path. And it looks like, in a really unfortunate move for the Zerg, he is going to expand here, while the Terran player has marines there. Of course, the Terran player is also expanding to his 3rd now, so he's going to be keeping on the same base as the Zerg player. And another thing that Zerg players can do is, if you have got idle lings, they should be going around. These lings could have taken out these rocks earlier, they could have taken out the gold earlier. and that actually helps you out quite a bit. So the Zerg player has now expanded right where these Marines are firing. Although it looks like the Marines haven't quite noticed yet because the death ball is now coming in. So this is a really deadly ball of Marines and Siege Tanks. They've got 2+ attack, and let's see if he just doesn't have enough. He needs Banelings really to deal with this. And it looks like he's in the choke, and a bit of a slow siege for the Terran player. Although he's got this choke here, and when these Siege Tanks go up, it's going to be pretty deadly for the Zerg player. And there's 3 combined shots by the Siege Tanks to take out almost all the Zerglings, and these Marines are going to be able to take out the rest of these Mutalisks. The Mutalisks fall really quickly, and that puts the Terran player into about 100 supply lead. And Jimminz does GG. That was the first bronze cast of my community cast, guys. The email address you can send your replays to is in the description below, and also check out the channel of the player that sent in this replay. So thanks for watching, guys, and see you later.